Hello guys, this is your friend Shinobi Addict 2.0. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Jubi Naruto got powerful harem with Kushina, Karin, Kurenai, Rarui, Samui, Mei, Narumi, Ino, Tamari, Yugito, Yugao, Anko Part 2. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start a new fanfic. Team 7 and Tazuna had already left Konoha and were heading towards Nami no Kuni. They walked down the dirt path which was flanked on both sides by trees. The group of 5 passed by a lone puddle. Really, what were they thinking when they came up with this plan? Those two demon brothers sure are stupid, no wonder they were only C-rank missing nin. Naruto thought as he stared at the puddle. Hey guys, I have to take a leak. Naruto yelled as he walked over to the puddle which held the two ninja. Right before Naruto got there, the two decided that it would be a good time to get out before a kid peed on them. Brat, I should to kill you for what you were going to do. Give us the old man, the one with one horn growled. Naruto recognized his as Gozu. They nuke nin readied his claw only to fall unconscious from a chop to the neck delivered by Naruto as the other Naruto disappeared in a plume of smoke. Gozu. The other one said, who Naruto remembered as Mizu, who had 2 horns on his forehead protector. The nuke nin launched his gauntlet at Naruto, who blocked the attack with his forearm which was covered in a mechanical armor. What the? That was all he managed to say before Kazumi knocked him out. What should we do with them? Sayuri asked her teammates, who looked at each other. We should tie them up and leave them for a group of Anbu to pick them up during their patrol. The silver-haired Kunoichi said before she turned to Tazuna, who was sweating bullets by now. Tazuna-san, can you please tell me why there were missing nin from Kiri trying to kill you? Kazumi asked the bridge builder. Tazuna sighed and decided that it would be for the best if he told them the truth. You see, the wave used to be a prosperous nation year back. We had trade and everyone was happy, but then Gato came to the wave and bought all ports. In an island nation like Nami no Kuni, if you control the ports you control everything else. He acts as if he was our king. He sends his thugs and bandits out to rob us and even takes some of the girls in the village to become slaves for him, slaves. Tazuna said as his balled his fists and tears streaked down his cheeks. The 3 Kunoichi on the team looked enraged at the fact that Gato had turned several girls into slaves and in turn raped them. While this is clearly a B rank if not A rank mission, there is no way in hell I will let this stand. Kazumi growled out, with Sayuri and Narumi agreeing with her. Naruto smiled at this. He knew that this time he had the power to make sure that Haku and Zabuza lived this time. Good, then we have our true mission. Naruto said as he walked past everyone. Our mission is to liberate the wave. He said as he looked over his shoulder, giving the other 4 a confident smile. Tazuna smiled as tears of joy fell from his eyes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Tazuna cried. The group walked until they came to a river. The air was now thick with mist that blocked their view of the other side. The ferryman allowed them on his small boat as he took them to the other side. During this trip the team saw the large bridge through the fog. Impressive, Narumi said as she appraised the bridge. Yep, that is my pride and joy. The hope of Nami no Kuni. Tazuna said with a proud smile. While the others were looking at he marvel of a bridge, Naruto was thinking about something else. We are almost to the spot where we ran into Zabuza-san and Haku-san. Thinking of Haku-san, I wonder if he is truly a girl this time around. The first time during the wave I thought he was a girl. I mean, what man wears a pink kimono? Naruto thought in his head. Hey Naru-kun, Sayuri said as she shook his shoulder. What do you think will happen? This is now a B rank mission and it's our first one out of the village. She asked. In all, she was excited and nervous at the same time. This was a chance to see how far she had gotten in her training to match her brother, Itachi. She still thinks Itachi is a guy. But there was the chance that she could die too. Naruto smirked. Don't worry, Sa-chan, if we run into anything I'll take care of it. Naruto said as he leaned back and closed his eyes. While he appeared calm on the outside, he was still nervous about trying to save Haku and Zabuza without looking like a traitor. He had worked on his powers for 2 months now with his shadow clone training and had gotten better controls on his Sharingan, could form most of the skeleton but no the muscle and skin on his Susanoo, and could now do Shinra Tensai every 10 seconds. He was able to recreate 2 techniques he once but was keeping them a secret unless he needed to use them to protect his friends, though he had a feeling that this time the wave mission was going to be far more difficult than before. The group had finally arrived at the shore of Nami no Kuni and continued on foot. Eventually Narumi reacted to the same white rabbit that Naruto had reacted to in his own timeline. White fur. But it's summer, Kazumi thought to herself before she heard the sound of metal cutting air. Get down, she shouted to the group as she pulled Tazuna down to the forest floor while Naruto did the same for Narumi and Sayuri. A massive butcher knife with 2 cutouts in it flew above them into a nearby tree. Naruto recognized the blade as the Kubikiribocho. On the handle of the blade was Zabuza Momochi. Zabuza was a tall and noticeably muscular man with pale skin, short spiky black hair, brown eyes, and small eyebrows. He was wearing bandages like a mask over the bottom half of his face. He wore his forehead protector sideways on his head and was shirtless, with his chest only covered by a belt to which he attached his Kubikiribocho, wearing baggy pants with the striped pattern typical of Kurigakure and mimetic wrist warmers extending up to his elbows, with matching leg warmers. Well, if it isn't Kazumi of the Sharingan, Zabuza said to the silver-haired Kunoichi. The air was thick with killer intent from Zabuza. Both Narumi and Sayuri were panting and gasping for air. Kazumi was sweating a bit from the pressure while Naruto was completely unaffected, which was something Zabuza took notice of. And his little team of pretend ninja. You should learn not to underestimate your opponents, Zabuza-san, Naruto said to the former swordsman of the mist, who looked at Naruto like he was crazy. Or else you might just end up dead, he said. The moment the word dead left Naruto's mouth, Zabuza felt steel against his throat. He looked to his side to find Naruto standing next to him with a kunai. How the? Zabuza exclaimed in shock as he looked back at the Naruto standing next to his team. That Naruto then turned into a flock of crows that flew away. Man, I love doing that. No wonder why Itachi always started his battles like that. Naruto thought to himself in satisfaction that he had surprised the feared Zabuza Momochi. Naruto then jumped away from the Kiri Nuke Nin and stood next to his team once more. Well, kid, I'll give you that one. Maybe you aren't just a wannabe shinobi, the demon of the mist praised as he dislodged his blade from the tree he was standing on. Now the real battle begins. Haku, come out, I may need your help in this battle. Out of the trees another shinobi wearing a Kiri Hunter Nin mask jumped down. Haku's disguised as a Hunter Nin outfit consisted of the standard Kurigakure pinstriped outfit which stopped at Haku's knees. Over this Haku wore a green haori with white trimmings, and around the waist was a brown sash with a fringed trail wrapped around Haku's waist twice. Haku also wore light brown platoon sandals with straps in the same color as the kimono and nail polish on the ninja's fingernails and toenails in matching blue-green color. When wearing this outfit, Haku's long hair was gathered in a white bun holder, while 2 locks of hair fell loose framing Haku's face, bound with metal hair cuffs at the ends. Kazumi-sensei, you take Zabuza, I'll take this Haku, Naruto said as he stood next to his sensei. Naruto separated from Kazumi's side and went towards Haku at unreal speeds. The masked ninja was quick to dodge and jumped back. Naruto chased after her before blurring out of existence and reappearing in front of Haku, delivering a swift punch to the face. Haku skipped along the forest floor a few times before correcting herself. Naruto could see the 2 small bulges through the haori and figured that she was binding them. So you are a girl, Naruto said with a small smirk. He performed a few hand signs before calling out, Jinten Sonic Kick, as he lashed out a kick into the air at sonic speeds, releasing a sonic boom that blew Haku back. I will not lose. I am Zabuza-sama's ultimate weapon, the now identified Kunoichi said before charging at Naruto with Senbon in hand. Suiten Gunshot Jutsu, Haku said as she performed a few one-handed signs before she shot a ball of condensed water at Naruto, who blocked it with a shield he made with Asura Path. Give up. Jinten light speed shuriken, Naruto said as he threw 5 shuriken at unheard of speeds. Haku with her high speeds was able to dodge 3 of them, but was cut by one on her left thigh and another one in her right arm. Luckily for her, Naruto wasn't aiming to kill, so she wasn't severely damaged. Never. Sweeten exploding water colliding wave. Haku yelled as large quantities of water came out of her mouth and flooded the surrounding area. Naruto managed to jump onto a tall tree to avoid this, nut knew that she now had the advantage since he still couldn't absorb normal chakra yet. She's stronger than Haku-san in my world, Naruto thought to himself before jumping out of the way to avoid a few Senbon thrown by the ice user. Naruto created a clone. Take this, Fujin and Raijin Jutsu, they called out as Naruto created a large tornado while the clone fired an electrical current into it. Haku managed to dodge the blunt of the attack but was still blown back to the fierce winds. This is it, 1,000 flying water needles of death, Haku said as several needles made up of water from her earlier jutsus rose and surrounded Naruto. I'm sorry, but this is your end. Haku said to Naruto as she let the needles shoot forward. Shinra Tensei, Naruto said as he blasted everything near him away from him. Now he knew why it was Nagato's favorite move. It was overpowered as hell. The Rinnegan was truly a gift from the heavens. Unfortunately Madara had it too, so it was also a curse. Haku's eyes widened behind her mask as she watched one of her best attacks get deflected too easily. No way. Not even Zabuza-sama can escape that Judas without getting wounded. She yelled in shock and a bit of fear. She knew that she had to go all out on this man to even have a chance to win. Secret Jutsu. Crystal ice mirrors, Haku said as several mirrors made of ice rose from the water. There were 12 in ground level, 8 over them, with the last one in the center on top forming a dome. Well, this brings back memories, Naruto thought to himself as he watched Haku get into one of the mirrors. Haku's reflection appeared on every single ice mirror, making it look like she was everywhere at once. Well, this is a neat jutsu you have here, Haku-chan. Naruto said. This is your ended. I wanted to avoid killing you since I can see that you have a bloodline like me, but it seems that now it's unavoidable. Haku said as she readied herself to attack by taking Senbon into each hand. Farewell. Haku said as she started to move at high speeds as launching Senbon into Naruto. Within a few seconds Naruto looked like a pin cushion and fell to the ground. It's over, she sighed. Wow, how come all shinobi I meet are so overconfident? Naruto said as he rose up zombie style as all the needles fell of him. Naruto's cloak was now ruined with hundreds of holes, but his skin looked fine. You are going to need more than that to pierce my skin, he said as he knocked on his arm, which made the sound of metal hitting metal, revealing that he once again had the Asura Path armor on. Gotta love the Asura Path, he thought to himself. Actually, maybe I'm overusing it a bit, he thought as he deactivated the path. How many Kekkei Genkais does this man have? He is able to move at unreal speed, control gravity, and create armor on his skin. Haku thought to herself as she tried to figure out a way to attack him. Hey Haku-chan, I'm not going to use my armor anymore, this is getting boring. Naruto called out. Boring. He thinks this is boring. Haku thought in surprise. Well, if you're giving me this chance, then I will use this more my advantage, she said as she renewed her attacks on the blonde, who this time dodged everything or blocked it with his sword. Hold still, she grit her teeth as she tried to hit him to no success. Well, I think it's time to end this, Naruto said as he pointed his hand right at her. Haku would have been surprised, but by now she knew that this man had completely outclassed her. Bansho Tenin, Naruto said as he pulled her towards him until he had her by the neck. Goodbye Zabuza-sama, she thought as she fell into unconsciousness. With Haku out of the fight, the mirrors fell, letting Naruto out. Naruto, however, instead of killing her, he put her over his shoulder and walked back to his team, who had a tied up Zabuza and a knocked out Kazumi. Hey guys, how did your fight go? Naruto asked them. His toe teammate plus Tazuna gave him a look that said, "See for yourself," since Kazumi was currently out of chakra and Narumi and Sayuri had a few minor cuts. "Well, anyways, we should get to your house, Tazuna-san." The alcoholic nodded and led the way to his home. Naruto had created clones to carry the three unconscious ninja while he talked to his teammates. "This place looks awful," Narumi said to her two friends, lovers. "Yeah, how could anybody do this to someone?" Sayuro said with a glare. She had a small flashback to the day her brother massacred the Uchiha clan. "This is what happens when the greedy get too much power," Naruto said. His face was currently unreadable. He made a mental note to have Danzo send his route to kill of any others high-ranking officials in Gato's company to make sure that no one ever took over Gato's place as a tyrant in Nami no Kuni. The team arrived at a two-story house near the water. It actually stood on a platform over the water suspended by several wooden posts. "Hey Tsunami, I'm home," Tazuna yelled as he knocked on the door. The door opened to show a beautiful woman with dark blue hair and black eyes. She wore a pink shirt with red around the collar and sleeves. "Tu-san, you're home," she exclaimed, happy that her father had returned safely. Gigi, a small boy with spiky black hair and dark eyes. He wore green overalls and a yellow shirt with a blue and white striped hat. "Yeah, thanks to these ninja. I would be dead if they weren't here," Tazuna said with a deep laugh as he pointed to the ninja. Tsunami noticed the three unconscious ones and couldn't help but ask, "Are those three alright?" Naruto was the one to answer since he was the now in charge. "The silver-haired Kunoichi is our sensei Kazumi Hatake. The other two are attackers who we will interrogate once they awaken," Naruto said to the wave native. While she seemed a bit nervous about letting the enemy into their home, she trusted them since her father did. "Alright, I'll prepare some rooms for you guys upstairs. I'll have one of the women and you can stay with Inari, my son. I'll give a separate room for your prisoners," she said to Naruto. "Actually, I'll stay with the prisoners," Naruto said, much to the surprise of his teammates. "Naru-kun, why would you stay with them? They might try to kill you," Narumi asked her lover. Naruto smiled back at her, a little too sweetly. "Just trust me, Naru-chan," he said, sending shivers down everyone's back. Narumi quickly nodded and shuffled away. Later that night, Zabuza stirred as he finally awoke from their slumber. "Where am I?" he asked himself before he realized that he was still tied up. He looked and saw the still unconscious Haku. "Looks like you lost, Haku-chan," Zabuza said to himself. Yes, she did. He heard from a shadowed wall as two red-ringed eyes stared at him. "I have a proposition to give you, Zabuza-san," the man said. "Well, shit," Zabuza thought to himself. Yes, she did. He heard from a shadowed wall as two red-ringed eyes stared at him. "I have a proposition to give you, Zabuza-san," the man said. Well, shit, Zabuza thought to himself. He was completely at the man's mercy at the moment. He didn't have his sword and his chakra was sealed. "Who are you?" the eyebrowless Nuke Nin asked the ring-eyed man. The man just chuckled. "I guess I should introduce myself, shouldn't I?" the man said as he walked out of shadows and into the moonlight. He started but was cut off by Zabuza. "Minato Namikaze," the swordsman nearly screamed. The man just face-faulted. "No, I'm Naruto Namikaze. Why does everyone get me and him confused all the time? It's bad enough that it happens in Konoha, but now it happens outside of it as well." Naruto ranted in rage that even a former Anbu like Zabuza thought that he was his father. "That's it, I'm changing my hairstyle. Maybe I'll copy the original Rakudo Sennin's hairstyle with the slicked back hair and two horn-like spikes. Yeah, that will do," Naruto planned in his head. Zabuza blinked a few times. "So you're not Minato Namikaze?" he asked the now annoyed blonde who gave him a load. "No." Okay, now what is this proposition you have? I'm useless now since I have no weapon or chakra, so tell me what you want." Naruto smiled. "Oh, that's simple. I want information on Gato. I want to know where he lives, where he keeps his slaves, and where he keeps his money." Naruto listed as he looked at Zabuza in the eyes. Now what would I get from giving you this knowledge? Zabuza asked the blonde who glared at him. The tension was high in the room now. One wanted information while the other didn't want to give up the information. Now about you life, Naruto said as he leaked killer intent onto Zabuza, who started to sweat from the pressure. The blonde Jubi let out an amused chuckle. I'll give you the manpower to take Kiri. Naruto answered. How much manpower? Zabuza asked Naruto. 100 Anbu. Naruto said. Now that he had Danzo on his side, he also had the root Anbu as well. Root consisted of about 500 Anbu. All he had to do was convince the Hokage that giving aid to the rebels was a good idea. 100 able men. Zabuza questioned. How could one genin have the ability to call on so many ninja at a whim? No, it had to be a lie. There was no way that a brat, no matter who he looked like or who he was related to, had that much access to shinobis. Lies. Root. Naruto called out as 5 Anbu shunshined behind him. Naruto smirked. These are root Anbu. They were made to be perfect shinobi. While the way they were trained took away much of their potential since Danzo killed their emotions, they feel no remorse and have no fear of death. They are killing machines. Naruto said to Zabuza, who was now considering the blonde's deal. So if I agree, then you will assist me in becoming Mizukage? Zabuza asked Naruto just to make sure that he heard correctly. Correct, Zabuza-san. If you agree, I will tell the Hokage to send Root Anbu to help you. Naruto said as he dismissed the 5 Anbu. Naruto knew he had Zabuza in his palm. While he disliked saying humans like tools of war, he wouldn't let Haku and Zabuza dies once more. Zabuza sighed. Fine, I will tell you everything about Gato on one more condition. The demon of the mist said. Please take Haku-chan with you. He said as he looked down at the girl. I know I treat her like she's weapon, and for a while I believed that. But I recently started to think of her as more of daughter. While she has killed before, she is still too innocent to see war like that in Kiri. Zabuza explained to Naruto, who nodded. War was a horrible thing. Very well. I'll take Haku-chan with me. I'll protect her with my life. That is the promise of a lifetime. Naruto said with a gentle smile that was betrayed by his demonic red eyes. Oh, and I want to fight you once the war finishes. Naruto said before he left the room, leaving Zabuza to think. I think I just let the devil out on Gato. The demon thought to himself before he fell back asleep. 2 days later, Naruto was getting ready for his raid on Gato's mansion. He hadn't told his team since Root was involved, and it was top secret that was only known by the council, the Hokage, and himself. Since his cloak was destroyed by Haku during their battle, Naruto bought a new outfit to wear until he got back home. He was currently wearing a black muscle shirt and baggy black pants. Attached to his hip were his kunai and shuriken holders. He had covered his face with a Anbu mask he had made using the Banbutsu Sozo, creation of all things. The mask was black with red around the eyes. It's go time, he thought to himself as he jumped out the room window. Gato's home was directly northeast from his location. It was about 3 miles away, which for a ninja was nothing at all. They could run dozens of miles per day, plus being a namikaze and Uzumaki never hurt since he had superior speed and stamina. As he ran through the forest, he stayed on the lookout for any of Gato's men. He knew that he couldn't go all out since he was on a small island, and a Biju appearing there would stir up all sorts of trouble for the small island country. A few minutes of running at super speed thanks to the Jinten, he arrived at a large building surrounded by a tall wall made up of white stone. The building itself was basically a Japanese-style castle. So this is where all the money he steals went. Makes me wish that I had killed the midget the first time around. Naruto thought as he approached the gates. Halt! Who are you? One of the bandit guards that was guarding the castle yelled. Naruto, not wanting to deal with them, simply burned them to death using Amaterasu. As the screams of the burning guards rang out, the others inside decided to go into high alert. Root! Naruto called as the 5 emotionless Anbu came to his call. Kill every bandit, thug, or nuke nin you see. Leave the slaves alone and make sure that Gato doesn't escape. Also, I want Gato Tem for myself. I plan to be one to make him pay for all that he has done. Naruto ordered. He was ready to Tsukiyomi the out of Gato. Hi Naruto-sama. The five called as they charged the castle. Naruto ignored the fighting outside as he walked into the large house. Anybody that tried to get in his way ended up on the receiving end of a cut from Sabukukas. Normally he wouldn't be this rough, but these men were the scum of the world. They enslaved, stole, killed, and raped. Breaking down the wooden door to the house with a small Shinra Tensei. He walked down the halls until he came to his destination, Gato's office. Ripping the door off its hinges, he stormed in on the little shit of a bastard Gato who was in the middle of speaking with a man with slicked back white hair. Oh, there is you target. Gato said with a cocky smirk. The man turned and grinned madly at Naruto. So you will be my next sacrifice to Jashin-sama. The man said as he stood up. He wore a black high-collared black cloak with red clouds. The front of his cloak was open, showing a pendant that seemed to be a triangle inside an ring. Hidan, Naruto said in a hushed voice. He really didn't want to fight the Akatsuki, but now it seemed like he had little choice. So you're working with the Akatsuki now, Gato? Naruto said as he blurred behind Gato. But that's still not enough to save yourself. Naruto roared as he stabbed Gato through the heart before Hidan could even react. Hey, that was my income source, you motherer. Hidan yelled as he charged at Naruto with his triple scythe. Naruto managed to bring his sword up to block the three blades from hitting him. He remembered from last time that all Hidan had to do was ingest your blood, then get into his ritual seal and stab himself. While Naruto was now immortal since he was the new Jubi, it was not a good idea to let you opponents find that out, or anybody really, since that could lead to he himself being chased after. Jumping back, he sheathed his sword and started to do hand signs. Hidan, being immortal, didn't care and charged at the Jubi. Kaden Fire Dragon's Roar, Naruto said as he put his hands together in creating a tube and exhaled into it. A large stream of fire spewed out of the other end. Hidan, not being able to dodge in time, ran head first into the fires. The fires completely charred the office of the once billionaire. Out of the raging fires, Hidan ran out and attempted to decapitate Naruto. Key word was attempted. Time seemed to slow as the scythe approached Naruto's neck. Hidan grinned wildly at the thought of killing the blonde man. Naruto, on the other hand, had a different plan. Jinten Shadowless Flight, said to himself as he blurred out of Hidan's way. Naruto appeared over the fires, absorbing them back into himself as he preformed another set of hand signs. Sweeten Water Dragon Jutsu. Naruto yelled as a large stream of water came out of his mouth and took the shape of a dragon. The water dragon smashed Hidan through the office wall and into the back courtyard of the mansion, which was covered in the blood of the dead bandits. Nice view, Hidan said as he looked at all the blood on the ground. Naruto stepped out of ruined office and faced Hidan. The silver-haired Nuke Nin's cloak was half burned of now and he had a few bad burns on his left arm. Damn brat, you are good. No wonder you beat Itachi-san. But you can't kill me since I'm immortal. The crazed shinobi laughed out. I know that, Naruto said to the pink-eyed psychopath. The cult of Jashin is able to gain immortality by sacrificing human beings. Like you, I have met gods before. Naruto said as he flicked 3 shurikens at Hidan, who didn't even bother to dodge. So you too worship a god? The insane priest said as he picked of the shuriken stuck to his torso. Well, maybe you should consider joining the cult of Jashin. It's a great thing, you gain immortality and can do whatever that you want to do. If you do, I'll spare you, since Jashin-sama will be displeased if I killed such a strong potential follower. Hidan said as he preached his religion. Naruto's sweat dropped at this. Sorry, but immortality from Jashin is of no use to me, Naruto said before getting into a ready stance. Hidan seemed to get serious now. You dare turn away the will of Jashin? Die, maggot! He roared as he charged at Naruto once more. Naruto, seeing that the fight was not going to stop any time soon, charged as well. When Naruto got near, he tried to leg sweep Hidan, only for the Akatsuki member to jump over him and try to stab him with the 3 blades of his scythe. Naruto managed to use Jinten to once again dodge the scythe and kicked Hidan in the back of the head. The silver-haired Nuke Nin bounced a few times of the ground before correcting himself. Damn it, die you son of a bitch! He yelled as he threw the scythe at Naruto, who jumped over it. Hidan smirked as he pulled the wire attached to the scythe, making it turn back and cut Naruto in half. Before Hidan could celebrate, Naruto's body poofed into a log. Naruto appeared to Hidan's left and did a palm thrust to his upper arm. Hidan staggered back as Naruto jumped back. Is that all you have? Hidan roared as he charged at Naruto once more with no regard for his own safety. Naruto smirked at the silver hair's man attempt to kill him and prepared a few hand signs. As the blade approached his neck, Naruto finished his jutsu. Hiraishin Boundless Throw. Naruto whispered into Hidan's ear when the immortal's blade was inches from his neck. In an instant, Hidan flashed away. Far, far away, Hidan arrived in a flash onto a large flat chunk of ice in the middle of the ocean. The only thing there besides him was a large penguin. Hidan looked around at his surroundings to see nothing but the open sea. He couldn't even any icebergs. What the hell? He yelled to himself as he frantically looked around to see if he could see anything in the distance. Where the hell am I? He cried out to himself. The only response he got was a noise from the penguin. Hidan turned and glared at the flightless bird. If I can't find a sacrifice in 3 days, you're going to have a pike going through your and out of your throat. Even if they were separate species, the bird seemed to understand and started pale rapidly. Back at the wave, Naruto just laughed as he headed back inside Gato's castle to free the slaves. Walking to the lowest level of the building, he came up on several jail cells filled with people of both genders and all ages. Walking down the halls, he broke every lock, releasing the slaves. He came up on the last room where he heard muffled cried. Breaking down the metal door, he found a girl about his age with spiky mint green hair with an orange clip. Her skin was a deep caramel color. Her eyes were a beautiful orange eyes. Her outfit consisted of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. Naruto recognized her as Fu, the Nanabi Jinchuriki. What was she doing here? She was a Taki Kunoichi, so why was she in one of Gato's jail cells? She was wrapped in chains and chakra suppressors. Fu, are you okay? Naruto asked her. Her head lifted up and glared at him. Why do you care, human? You here to buy me and use me as a toy like what happened to the other slaves? She growled at him. He could see her trying to call on the Nanabi's chakra, but the seals prevented her. Naruto looked at her with sad eyes. Deidara was right, she did hate humanity after all. Fu-san, look, I'm not here to hurt you or any of the other slaves. I'm here to save all of you. Naruto said to her. Fu just scuffed and turned her head away from him. Why would you save me, human? Did Taki finally see their mistake in selling me to Gato Tem and sent you to get me back? She asked sarcastically. Naruto's eyes widened at this. Taki had sold their Jinchuriki to Gato. How could a hidden village ever approve of that? How the hell did that happen anyways? Shibuki would never do that. The man was a coward but not cold-hearted enough to sell a girl into slavery. Naruto growled as his power began to rise with his rage. His appearance changed as his whiskers got darker and his eyes turned into their Tengen form. Fu's eyes widened at this. Is he a Jinchuriki as well? She asked herself as she saw the man show traits of a Biju. Inside Fu the Nanabi, Chome was spazzing out as she felt the power matched that out all Bijus at the same time, symbolizing one thing, the Jubi. After a few seconds, Naruto calmed down enough to regress the changes. Sorry you had to see that, Fu-san. My name is Naruto Namikaze, he apologized as he cut her binds. Are you a Jinchuriki as well? She asked. Tears were building up in her eyes as she looked at Naruto. Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Are you a Jinchuriki? Fu asked. No, demanded this time. Naruto smiled. No, I'm not a Jinchuriki. Naruto said in a cheery tone. Fu hope fell as she now knew that the man in front of her was not like her. I'm a former Jinchuriki. Naruto yelled as he fist pumped. Fu's head snapped up at this. Former. How the hell are you a former Jinchuriki? The host dies after the Biju is extracted. I know since I saw it happen with my mother. Fu yelled at the blonde who smiled back kindly taking her aback. I never had my Biju extracted since I merged with it to become a demon. Naruto said much to her surprise. Fu's expression was best described as fish-like. Her jaw had dropped and he was gasping. Naruto smirked at this. He loved getting this reaction out of people. Before Fu could ask any questions, Naruto spoke once again. Now let's get these people out of here. Since I'm sure they have been here for far too long. Naruto said to the Jinchuriki, who nodded silently as he walked out of the metal cell with her in tow. The blonde demon led all the people out of the castle and back to the outside world and freedom. Fu kept glancing over at Naruto from time to time. So how were you treated when you were a Jinchuriki? Fu asked. She had to know, was she the only one treated badly or was it common for regular humans to mistreat Jinchuriki? Naruto smiled sadly. I was treated basically the same as you. I was ignored, overpriced at shops, treated badly and beaten occasionally. Naruto answered sadly. Fu's hand clenched shut at his answer. Calm down, Fu-san. I wasn't done. I was treated badly until they started to see what I could do and eventually I gained their respect when I saved my village from destruction. Naruto smiled down to her since she was a few inches shorter. But they mistreated you. How could you save them? Why would you save them? She cried out to him. Naruto smiled sadly at her. She really had lost her faith in humanity. Guess he would have to bring it back. I did it because I wanted to protect my precious people. I wanted to prove to them that they were wrong about me and that I love the village. Hate leads to conflict. When one shows hate to another, the other hates back. This starts a cycle of hatred in the world. The only way to stop it is for a party to stop hating the other. Then peace can be achieved through understanding. Naruto said with a smile as he explained to Fu his way. Fu looked perplexed at this. Stop hating the one that hurt you and eventually they'll see you for who you are. She bit her lip as she thought about it. Was it possible for her to spot hating humanity? Wise word for such a young man. Naruto heard behind him. Behind him stood a short old lady, her eyes shut with wrinkles. That's a good philosophy you have there. If only more people thought like you, the world would be a better place. She said with a hint of sadness. Yeah, but my dream is to make that happen. That was my sensei's dream and I promised to him and his first wayward disciple that I would do it and I never break my promises, boss-san. Naruto said enthusiastically. Fu looked at Naruto in a new light. He was her savior after all. That's a good quality boy. She chuckled. She moved up her sleeve to reveal a seal. She channeled some chakra into it, releasing it. In a puff of smoke she was holding a very large scroll. This is the Jackal contract. It severed me well back in my day. I have no use for it nowadays, so I'm passing it on to you as my way of supporting your cause. She said as she handed the scroll over to Naruto. Naruto eyed the scroll for a second with wide eyes. He had lost his toad contract when he died, so this could serve as his replacement, plus the animal path allowed him to sign several contracts with different animals. Boss-san, I can't, he started but stopped when he noticed that she wasn't there anymore. He turned to Fu. Where did she go? Fu shook her head. I don't know, I was looking at the scroll. Bu man, for a old bag of bones she can move fast. Fu said to Naruto, who sealed the scroll away in a seal on his shoulder. So Fu, where are you going? Naruto asked the dark-skinned girl. I don't know. Taki sold me out, so not there. She said with a sad look. She turned to Naruto. Maybe I can go with you, Naruto-san, she said to Naruto, who nodded. This way he could protect her from the Akatsuki. He went back inside and took Gato's head and sealed it in a scroll. Well, that's done, Naruto said as he and Fu walked back out of the castle, leaving clones to collect anything of value to give to the people of the wave. After leaving Gato's estate in ruin, Naruto and Fu the Nanabi Jinchuriki made their way into the forests of Nami no Kuni. Naruto turned to Fu. Let's stop here for now, there is something I have to do. Naruto said as he opened the large summoning scroll he was given by the old lady back at the tyrant's former home. In the scroll there were only 3 names were listed on the scroll, making Naruto the 4th person to sign it. Naruto bit his thumb and wrote his name in blood, then pressed his blood-covered fingers under it. Unlike a normal contract where the name remains red, his signature turned golden. Okay, let's try this. Naruto said as he performed the hand signs for the summoning jutsu, then slammed his palm on the ground. In a grand plume of smoke the boss of the jackal contract appeared before them. While he wasn't as big as Gamabunta or the 2 other boss-level toads, he was still large. The jackal boss was about 3 stories tall with smooth black fur running down its back with golden fur covering the rest of its body. Who dares summon the jackal boss Jakaru? The large dog-like summon demanded before looking down at the 2 humans in front of him. I summoned you, Naruto said as he took a step towards the large summon. The jackal boss lowered its head so that it was now face to snout with the blonde demon. The large canine seemed to be examining the blonde as his eyes scanned the blonde's body. You smell of Biju and have the same feel as one, only more natural, as if you were one with nature. The summon boss said to the blonde Jubi as it sniffed Naruto's scent. I see it now. You are the Jubi, aren't you, boy? Jakaru said to Naruto, who nodded. Naruto smiled up at the large animal. Yes, I am Naruto Namikaze, the Nadaime Jubi. Naruto said as he offered a hand to the Jakaru. The black-backed jackal moved one of its paws to shake Naruto's hand with one of his large claws. It is an honor to serve you, Jubi Dono. You may call on out clan whenever you wish. The Jackal clan specializes in tracking and scavenging. We are also fluent in fire and earth jutsu but prefer to stay out of combat. The boss of the Jackal contract stated to the demon lord, who nodded. Thank you, Jakaru-san. Oh, and call me Naruto, okay? Naruto said to the boss, who nodded. Fu just watched the 2 interact since this wasn't her business. Very well, Naruto-sama. If that is all, then I'll be on my way. Jakaru said as he left in a flume of smoke. Naruto turned to Fu. Okay, let's get back to the main village. Naruto said as he placed a hand on Fu's shoulder and vanished into thin air, not noticing the slight red glow of a single Sharingan hidden in the shadows of the foliage. He may be a problem. The man said before he vanished into a swirl coming from his lone eye. Tezuma's house. Naruto and Fu appeared before the group. Kazumi was the first to react. Naruto-san, how did it go? Oldest Kunoichi asked the blonde. Naruto smirked and unsealed Gato's head and threw it on the table. The residents of the house gasped as they looked at the fear-stricken face of the man who had made their lives a living hell. He's dead, Tezuma said as tears gathered in his eyes at the sight of the man he hated dead. He's finally dead, he cried in cheer as he hugged his daughter. Inari looked at the head in shock. He had believed that Gato was invincible a few seconds before, but now here it was, proof that the great Gato had fallen at last. He looked up at Naruto, who was talking with his team. Heroes do exist, he thought with a teary smile. So were there any complications? The silver-haired Jonin asked as she stared at Fu. I ran into a Akatsuki member known as Hidan. He was a pain to get rid of since he can't be killed. Naruto said, much to the surprise of the team. They were shocked for 2 reasons. One was that the Hidan could not be killed according to Naruto. 2 was that Naruto fought Hidan and technically won. What do you mean that he can't be killed? Sayuri asked her lover. How was it possible for someone to be killable? I mean that he is literally immortal. Naruto said with a sigh. The 4 Kunoichi's jaws dropped at the motion that someone had gained immortality. How did he gain immortality? Narumi asked with wide eyes. Naruto frowned. He gained it by joining the Jushinist cult. They perform human sacrifices to please their god, who in turn grants them immortality. While the cult seems like a choice that anyone in the shinobi business should do, the trails for joining the cult bring the body to a point where it would fail or the mind would break from pain. Also, the blessing of Jashin fills your mind with dark thoughts which slowly break away at your sanity. Naruto explained with a scowl at the thought of the cult. How do you know so much of the cult, Naruto? Fu asked the former Jinchuriki. I've fought a member before. They are a pain in the to beat since the only way to do so would be cut of their limbs and restrain them, trap them so they can't move, completely obliterate the body, drain their chakra, which is hard to do since they rarely use ninjutsu or genjutsu, and lastly you can rip their souls out of their body. Naruto explained to the kunoichi, who nodded to show that they understood. Kazumi looked at Fu. So who are you and where to do fit the tale on how Naruto killed Gato? The kunoichi asked the green-haired girl. I was going to be sold to the Akatsuki by Gato since I am the Jinchuriki of the Nanabi. Fu said with a scowl at the thought of what almost became her fate. Naruto rescued me and the other slaves, so I decided to come with him back to Konoha. The dark-skinned girl said with a small smile at the thought of her savior. That explains why the Akatsuki were here, but that still doesn't tell us how Gato got a Jinchuriki. Kazumi stated in confusion. They sold me to him so that they could get rid of me. The council back at Taki decided that I was too much of a risk, so one day I was attacked, bound with chains and seals, then shipped off to Gato's. Fu told her story of betrayal. Narumi brought her into a hug. I'm sorry for all you had to go through, the blonde said with a few tears threatening to spill out. It wasn't your fault. It was those bastard in Taki who are at fault. Fu said with a wide smile. Naruto smiled at the interaction. The blonde noticed Zabuza leaning against the wall at the other side of the room. Walking over to him, Naruto smiled. Well, it seems like your information was correct. Naruto said. Naruto pulled out a scroll. As promised. This scroll has the location where you and the Anbu will meet. It also has the password that you will need to know in order for them to follow you. Naruto said as he handed the scroll over to the swordsman. Root. Naruto called out as a Anbu appeared next to him in Shunshin. Naruto pulled out another scroll. Give this scroll to the Hokage. The root Anbu nodded and Shunshined to complete his mission. Wow, for a second I thought that you had been bluffing about having Anbu at your command. Zabuza said with a smirk that was hidden by the bandages over his mouth. So how about we have a battle now? Swords and taijutsu only. No genjutsu, ninjutsu, or dojutsu. Zabuza suggested, putting extra emphasis on the word dojutsu since he knew he stood no chance in hell of beating the blonde if he used his Tengen. Naruto smirked. I believe that that's a great idea. Let's go outside, Naruto said as he led Zabuza out of the house. The others who had heard the challenge followed to see the fight. Both fighters faced each other as they got into their stances. Ready? Zabuza asked the blonde, who nodded. Haku, be the ref. Zabuza ordered his apprentice. The ice user nodded, stepping forward. Fight, she said as she threw her arms down. Zabuza wasted no time as he charged straight at Naruto, who brought his sword up to block the horizontal strike from the missing nin. Naruto disengaged as he jumped back before running at Zabuza in a zigzag pattern and delivering his cut from the right, which Zabuza blocked with his massive blade. Before Zabuza could retaliate, Naruto vanished from Zabuza's sight in a burst of speed. The Nuke Nin's honed battle instincts told him that he was in danger. The browless man turned in time to block another attack from Naruto. The two blades clashed with each other, sending sparks everywhere as the two grinned against each other. You're good. Zabuza laughed out in joy of finding someone who could give him a good sword fight. Zabuza jumped back and threw the large Zanbato at Naruto, who leapt over it towards Zabuza. The former swordsman of the mist sidestepped Naruto's vertical slash and ran to his sword that was stuck on the trunk of a tree. Naruto ran at Zabuza to try to stop him from retrieving his blade, but was forced to duck when Zabuza reached the handle as swung a wide attack. Seeing an opening, Naruto launched forward in an attempt to skewer the browless man. Zabuza managed to move enough so that Naruto's blade only scratched his lower chest. Zabuza ignored the pain and took another swing at our blonde hero, only for said demon to jump on the flat side of the blade, which was followed by a swift kick to Zabuza's jaw. The former mist shinobi went flying back but stopped himself by stabbing his blade into the ground. Naruto rushed at the Nuke Nin to try to finish the match. Zabuza had the same idea and charged at the blonde as well. Right before they clashed, Naruto blurred from existence. What? Zabuza thought in surprise. Behind you, Naruto said calmly as he stood with his back to Zabuza. The missing nin turned only to be hit in the chest with a heavy kick that launched him back with neck-breaking force. Zabuza's flight was cut short by a 3 which nearly fell over from the force of the collision. Naruto appeared in front of Zabuza with his sword to Zabuza's neck. I win, Naruto said with a neutral expression that showed no emotions. Zabuza saw it now. He saw what Naruto really was. He was someone who had seen every horror war had to offer, seen every single person he loved killed, and would do anything in his power to prevent those who are important to him from dying. Outside of battle he was a friend, but once engaged in combat he was a warrior who would end a life if it meant accomplishing his goals. He was someone he could respect. I must admit, you're good Gaki. Zabuza said with a light chuckle. I give. Naruto smiled and removed his blade from Zabuza's neck. That was good fight. Naruto said. 1 week later, Naruto, his team, Haku, and Fu stood at the end of the bridge. It had taken a week for Tazuna and his builders to finish the bridge after Naruto had taken out Gato. With the money Naruto had given to the village, the economy flourished now. Zabuza had explained to Haku that he had to leave and that she had to go with Naruto to Konoha. While she did protest leaving him, he accepted after Zabuza confessed that he thought of her like a daughter and that he didn't want her to see the kind of war like that in Kiri at such a young age. Naruto now wore a new outfit that he had made using the Banbutsu Sozo. He wore a black t-shirt with a white X on the chest with black Anbu-style pants and boots. Over this he wore a white coat that spit at the waist into 10 tails, that reached his ankles with a high collar that had 10 points. On the back was the image of the Rinnegan with 9 tomo under it. Around his neck a Magatama necklace with 6 red beads. He had to admit, these clothes felt more like they belonged than the ones that Kami gave him a few months ago. Zabuza, I received a notice yesterday that the route Anbu have been mobilized and will be there when you arrive at Umi no Kuni. Naruto said with a small smile, knowing that he was helping in ending the bloodline wars. Zabuza nodded. Thank you Naruto-sama. I hope to see you one day when I'm Mizukage, the browless man said. Please don't call me Naruto-sama, Naruto said as he scratched the back of his head. Zabuza laughed at this. I miss you Zabuza-sama, Haku said with a sad smile, knowing that she was parting ways with the man who raised her and saved her life back in Mizu no Kuni. HN. Just stay safe Haku-chan, and remember, if any boy in Konoha tries to touch you inappropriately without your permission, I give you the right to kill them. The man said with a smirk as he saw his daughter figure blush from what he was saying. Well, I believe that we should get going now, Kazumi said to her group as she started to walk away while reading her orange book. The group nodded and followed closely behind her. Naruto stayed a second and handed a Hiraishin kunai to Tazuna. If anyone ever tries to threaten your country like Gato did, don't be afraid to summon me, Naruto said before he left after his group. Hearing a bird's cry, Naruto looked up to see a Konoha messenger hawk circling over him. Whistling at it, the bird flew down towards Naruto, leaving a scroll for him. Opening it, he read the message from the Hokage. It was a message telling him that the Chunin exams would be in Konoha like he said that it would. This time I'll make sure that Orochimaru doesn't get his mark on his target, Naruto thought. Konoha. After Naruto and his team had arrived, Naruto and Kazumi had given the Hokage the mission report. Haku and Fu had been given temporary asylum in the village under the Namikaze household until further notice. After Kazumi left, the real conversation began. Rokudaime Dono, the war council has gathered, Hiruzen said as he motioned for Naruto to follow him through a fake wall on the side of the room. Within were 6 chairs around a large round table with a map of the elemental nations. Out of the 6 chairs, 4 of them were filled. The 4 who were already there were Shikaku Nara. The next was the Anbu commander, who was dressed in a white cloak and black trousers with bandages tied around his right leg, arm guards, gloves and black sandals. He also had brown, spiky, Harem wears a mask with a dog motif inclusive of pointer ears, detailed eyebrows and three thick stripes with two along either sides of his cheek and one on his forehead. Next was Danzo Shimura and lastly Jiraiya of the Sannin. Looks like we are all here. Hiruzen said. Naruto looked around. The group consisted of some of the top officers in Konoha, the Anbu commander, the main strategist, the most powerful Sannin, the leader of Root Anbu, the current Hokage and himself the Rokudaime Hokage. Everyone in the room was one of the few people who knew that he was from a dimension. So how are we going to handle the invasion? The Anbu commandeer asked the other five in the room. Hiruzen looked over at Naruto. Rokudaime Dono, how was the invasion in your world before? The Hokage asked the demon lord. Naruto closed his eyes as he remembered that day. The attack was completely unexpected. The village was not ready for the strike, which resulted in a large number of casualties. Orochimaru's plan was to let the Ikebe Jinchuriki rampage within the village while several three-head snakes are summoned away from the village, which broke through the walls of the village. In the Chunin exam stadium, Kabuto Yakushi place a genjutsu over the civilian while several Oto and Suna shinobi dresses like civilians attacked. Orochimaru would then attack the Sandaime while his elite guard create a barrio trapping the two inside. He would then use the Edo Tensei to revive the Shadaime and Nadaime to help him. Naruto explained the event that happened on the day that he lost his Jiji. I think I got an idea. Shikaku said to himself as he started to think of a counter against the plan. I propose that we alert the Anbu about the invasion and the experienced Jonin. We will announce the plan to the Chunin and lower-ranking Jonin over headsets right before the invasion, since the biggest chance that a spy would be a Chunin or Genin, the Nara clan head. What about the summons? Danzo asked. I say that the remains of your route strike the groups in charge of the summons. Jiraiya-sama should use his summons to guard the village gate and make sure that they don't get more ninja into the village. Namikaze-sama will take care of the Jinchuriki, then go and assist the Sandaime in battle with Orochimaru. The Nara leader explained to the rest, who nodded at the plan. We'll go with your plan, Shikaku. This council meeting is over, we shall meet once more after the second exam. Hiruzen said to the others who left in Shunshin or Hiruzen in Naruto's case. Okay, I have done some thinking and have decided, since I'm such a nice guy and several people have been asking, plus her chest is huge. I'll throw you guys a bone and set up a poll for Hinata to be with Naruto. But know this, the poll is finale, so if you really want her or not going, vote. Other than her there will be no more women in his harem since it already is massive. Oh, and her personality will not be the shy girl you guys know, but more like an alternate Hinata from that Road to Ninja. And don't any of you even dare say that I'm bending over for my fans, I'm just giving back to the readers. The Chunin exams begin. Naruto jumped from roof to roof as he made his way through the village. In 2 days was the start of the Chunin exams and his team was in it. Hearing yelling, he came to the familiar sight, Kankuro picking on Konohamaru. Really? This again? Naruto thought as he jumped down from the roofs behind the Suna shinobi. You know that picking of the Hokage's grandson could lead to problem between our villages. Naruto whispered into the cat man's ear. The Suna ninja quickly paled as he dropped the kid. Tamari, on the other hand, couldn't help but blush. He's hot, the blonde thought as a faint blush dusted her cheeks. Good. Now can you please tell me what this boy did that you, a shinobi, would have to threaten him? Naruto asked with an overly sweet smile as he leaked a bit of killer intent that caused a redhead watching from the trees to blush at the bloodlust. I'm sorry, sir, it was a misunderstanding. Kankuro said, raising his hands in defense from the blonde, who smirked at the puppet user's reaction. Naruto smiled in satisfaction, turning to Tamari. Nice to meet you, beautiful, may I know your name? He said to the fan user, causing her entire face to go red. Tamari, she said as she looked at the ground. The girl in tree glared down at the blonde Kunoichi, who had gained the attention of the blonde man. Nice to meet you, Tamari-chan. Naruto said as he took her right hand and planted a kiss on it. He always did have a crush on the desert Kunoichi in his world, but never had time to ask her out. Turning to one of the trees near the road, "You can come out, you know," Naruto said. In a swirl of sand, a red-haired beauty appeared before the three shinobi. She had dark red hair that reached her mid-back and parted on the left, leaving the kanji for love exposed on her forehead with a bang framing her left side. Like Gaara, she had back lining around her eyes. Her emotionless emerald green, which held a radiant beauty behind them, buried behind all the pain she had lived through. She wore a black full-body suit with t-shirt-like sleeves, 3/4 length legs, and an open neck. With this, she wore a pink cloth over his right shoulder and the left side of her hips, and a wide leather band system over the left shoulder and right side of her hips. With this leather band, she carried around her gourd that contains her sand. She also wrapped her black forehead protector over the band. However, what really got Naruto's eyes were her perky D cups. "Damn your Jiraiya," Naruto thought. "Kankuro, I thought I told you to not cause any commotion," the female Gaara said with a bit of killer intent and bloodlust. The puppet user tried to defend himself but only earned another blast of ki from the red-haired Jinchuriki silenced him. "Quite, or I'll kill you," she said in a dark tone. Turning to Naruto, a nearly unnoticeable pink dusted her cheeks. "I apologize for my brother's foolish actions." Naruto waved it off. "It's okay. But may I know your name?" Naruto said with a kind smile which caused both the female Gaara and Temari to blush a bit darker. "It's Gaia," she said in a neutral tone that betrayed no emotion. Naruto grinned. "I'm Naruto Namikaze, current head of the Namikaze clan and genin of Konoha," Naruto said to the shock of the three sand shinobi in front of him. Naruto mentally smirked at their reaction. At least they didn't mistake me as my father, Naruto thought with a mental sigh of relief. Gaia bowed lightly. "Nice to meet you, Namikaze-san." While she wasn't one for formalities to someone she didn't know, she knew that the blonde must have some political sway if he was a clan head. Naruto's sweat dropped at this. "Please, Naruto is fine. Calling me that makes me feel old," Naruto said with a smile. He discreetly placed a hand on his sword and formed the connection to Gaara in the afterlife. "Yo Gaara, are you there?" Naruto asked but made sure to block out any chance that Gaia had of entering the conversation since he didn't need an unknown know his secret. "Yes, I am Naruto. What is it?" Gaara asked the blonde. He could almost feel the former Hokage's grin. "I finally found your counterpart and I have to say, dude, she is hot," Naruto responded with a smirk as Gaara's irritation flowed from the sword. "I thought I told you to never mind, you wouldn't listen anyways," Gaara said as he rubbed the bridge of his nose back in heaven. "Just take care of her," Gaara said as he cut the connection to avoid any further headache. "We'll be leaving now," Gaia said as she motioned for her siblings to follow her. He was cute, she thought to herself, but hesitated a bit when the foreign word came to mind. "Please, he'll just betray you like everyone else will. Remember that you can only trust your mother," Shukaku said to her from her mind as he tried to devour as much of her sanity he could through the broken seal that placed on the girl. He could feel the power that the boy held and didn't want to give the blonde the chance to suppress him. "Yes, mother." Gaia though back to the Biju who laughed like a maniac from her mind as he tried to crush all hope she had about finding someone who could understand her. "Good. Now get me some more blood. Mother demands," Shukaku said with a dark crackle. Before Gaia could respond, Naruto called out to her, "Hey, want to hang out a bit tomorrow? I would love to get to know someone from a different village," Naruto said with a large grin. He would help her out as much as he can so that she doesn't go on a rampage like Gaara did all those years ago. "Don't, child. He'll just betray you just like that traitorous uncle did," Shukaku roared as he desperately tried to convince her of rejecting the hand of friendship offered to her by bringing up one of the most painful moments of her life. "No," Gaia said coldly as she walked away from the blonde who frowned at the response. He knew he would have to do something about that dog Shukaku who was manipulating her from the inside. Naruto's smile returned back at full force. "Okay then, see you at the Chunin exams." Naruto said as he walked away from the who looked back at him wondering the same thing. How did he know? 2 days later, Naruto and his team walked into the academy building as they prepared to take the Chunin exams. Neither Sayuri or Narumi knew about the invasion since they were genin, so Naruto couldn't tell them anything. His team stopped in front of a door. What is this? Sayuri growled as she saw an illusion over the door showing the wrong number. Drop the ill. She was cut off by Naruto, who covered her mouth. Be quiet, Sa-chan, it was put there to weed out the weak and foolish, Naruto whispered as he pushed her along. Stop right there, you three. We have taken the exams over 10 times and still failed. What makes you think that academy fresh genin like you can? One of the two who stood in front of the door said, letting out a spike of ki to let them know just who he was. Are you saying that the Namikaze head, Kyuubi Jinchuriki, and the last loyal Uchiha aren't really? Naruto said as his Tengen flashed for a split second. Both guards paled as they realized just who they had insulted. Both quickly ran away, pushing a few genin out of the way as they ran. I challenge you to a spar. A boy with overly thick eyebrows and bowl haircut wearing a green skin-tight jumpsuit and green leg warmers yelled as he pointed at Sayuri. Behind him both his teammates looked embarrassed. No, Naruto said in a firm tone. Who are you? Sayuri asked. I'm Konoha's beautiful green wild beast, Rock Lee. He said as he did a nice guy pose. Now I demand a spar from you, Sayuri-chan, he said as he pointed at the Uchiha once again. I said no, Naruto said in a firm tone once again. In his world Sasuke had lost badly and contributed to him turning to the path of evil. Oh, your Yondaime-sama, Rock Lee said as he realized who he was talking to. Naruto face faulted before glaring at the green-wearing genin. I am not Minato Namikaze. I am Naruto Namikaze. Naruto yelled at the boy who took a step back at the large bout of ki to him that exploded from the blonde. My apologies, Naruto-kun, Lee said as he bowed before going on about he would run 200 laps around the village if he ever forgot Naruto's name again. Whatever, Naruto said as he and his team entered the exam room. The room was filled with Chunin hopefuls who, upon seeing Naruto and his team, decided to try to intimidate them with their ki, which Naruto thought was pathetic. This, however, was put to an end when one of the shinobi from was yelled out something that really pissed Naruto off. It's the Yondaime Hokage, the shinobi yelled out, which launched the whole room into an uproar of chuas. Really? An entire room of genin think that I'm my father? Naruto thought as he released a bit of his killer intent, which caused everyone in the room to pale. I am not Minato Namikaze, Naruto said through gritted teeth. Seeing the state of everyone in the room caused Naruto to sweat drop. This is going to be easy, Naruto said as he and his team, followed by Team 9, walked into the room. The other Konoha team was shocked to see the power that Naruto had. To be able to bring down a room of ninja even if they were genin was an achievement, considering he was also a genin. Naru-kun, Naruto heard from behind as Ino ran and jumped into his arms. Naruto had decided to take her as one of his official girl-friends after the mission to Nami no Kuni. Ino quickly claimed his lips, leading into a quick makeout session. He's not all yours, you know, Inuko's voice said from the door as she and her team entered the room. Behind her was Shino and Hinata. Now one would expect that Hinata would still be the shy but kind girl she was always, right? Wrong. In this world she was a significantly colder and much more confident Hyuga like most of her family. He had found that without someone to look up to as a role model she ended up breaking down. Quite mutt, Hinata said as she walked past her teammates and up to Narumi. A faint blush dusted her cheeks. Narumi-chan, would you like to come over to the Hyuga compound after this exam is over to have a little fun? The Hyuga heiress said to the blonde Namikaze. Hinata-san, I already told you that I'm in a relationship already and I don't play for that team. Narumi cried out. The Hyuga heiress had been trying to get her to agree to go out with her since the academy, but she had told her time and time again that she was in love with someone else. The Hyuga activated her Byakugan and glared at Naruto. I will have her one day, she said before storming off. Naruto's sweat dropped as at the Hinata's behavior. He knew that she was still loyal to the village and had a heart deep inside as shown for her love of Narumi. You guys should learn to be quite yo. A silver-haired genin from Konoha that Naruto knew all too well. He wasn't able to finish his sentence as Naruto planted his fist into his gut. Shut it, snake. Naruto growled as he tossed him towards the man's teammates. Everyone looked at Naruto in shock but decided not to say anything in fear that they would suffer the same fate that the glasses-wearing genin. Naruto would have killed him, but that would have alerted Orochimaru to their plans to take him out. All right, no more fighting. A voice boomed out as Ibiki Morino, a large man wearing a black trench coat and bandana-style forehead protector, ordered. Any more fighting and you'll be disqualified. The T&I expert threatened. Naruto looked at Ibiki and nodded. Walking over to his seat, he found himself between the pissed of Hinata, who was glaring at him for stealing the girl she wanted, and a Iwa shinobi who was glaring at him for being related and looking like the Yondaime who had decimated their forces several years ago. The first exam is a written exam. You have 1 hour to answer the 9 questions given to you and 1 more at the end. If you are caught cheating, you will lose 2 points of your total score the first time, 4 the second, and 6 the last time, which will be an instant failure. If your score is less than 1 when the exam ended, then you and your teammates are disqualified. Ibiki explained the rules of the test. They were a bit different from the time he took them, but they were similar enough. Naruto answered all the questions within a few minutes thanks to his amount of experience in the battlefield. He looked around and decided to take a nap. Our blonde demonic hero was awoken by Ibiki telling everyone that there was 10 minutes left and he would giving the finale question. This finale question is different from the rest. If you want, you can leave now and take the test again in 6 months, the scared special Jonin said. Why would we quit? We already took the other questions. Inuko asked the proctor. Ibiki smirked. Because if you get this question wrong, then you will be barred from ever taking a Chunin exam in any country or village ever again. He said with a sadistic smirk as all the genin gasped at what he was implying would happen. But that's not fair. Tamari protested. There are people here who have taken the exams several times before and they never had to do this stupid question. Well, your group was unfortunate enough to get me as the proctor, so I make the rules. Now choose. And just like over half the teams quit, including a team with a certain weak Pinkett Banshee who was glaring at her for quitting. Unlike last time, Naruto didn't yell out that it was bullshit since he didn't have to worry about Sakura quitting. After most of the teams left, leaving only about 23 teams left. Well then, all of you who remained, you pass. Ibiki said with a smirk at all the shocked faces he was receiving from the remaining genin. In the shinobi world, you sometimes have to make hard decisions. In the field, bad information could lead your team to their doom. He said as he removed his bandana, showing everyone the burn scars and holes in his head. He put back on the bandana and was about to continue when he was interrupted by something sewing through the window. In front of the room now was what had just broken the window with a large banner behind her. The banner read, "The YN single, second exam proctor Anko Mitarashi." The woman known as Anko had light brown, pupil-less eyes and violet hair which is styled in a short, spiky, fan ponytail. She wore a tan overcoat with a purple inseam, which had a pocket on both sides, and complete with a fitted mesh bodysuit that stretches from her neck down to her thighs. She wore a dark orange mini skirt, as well as a forehead protector, a small pendant that looks like a snake fang on a thick cord rather than a chain to prevent it from being easily torn off in combat, a wristwatch, and pale gray shin guards. She also wore a dark blue belt around her waist that connects to her skirt that has an appendage-like sash. Come on brats, I'm the second proctor Anko Mitarashi. Now let's get going, she said before seeing Naruto. Smirking, she shunshined over to him and wrapped her arms around his neck from behind. Oh Naruto-kun, you're in the exams, she whispered into his ear. The two had a weird relationship. She would try to seduce him while he would do the same, yet they weren't an official couple yet. Naruto smiled. He had always found Anko's sadistic yet playful personality was always something that made a good day into a great day for him. Yes, I am Anko-chan. Maybe after this I could take you to dinner. Naruto asked with a charming smile. Oh, you want to take little ol' me to dinner, huh? We'll see, she said before shining back in front of the room. Anko, you're early again, Ibiki said as he pushed his way through the banner. Anko looked extremely embarrassed. Who cares? She said as she turned to the large group. Meet me in the Forest of Death in 10 minutes, you're out. She said before she jumped out another window, which caused Ibiki to sigh once again. Forest of Death. Naruto and his team stood at one of the gates to the dangerous training ground. After the first exam, everyone who passed was lead on a wild goose chase after Anko until they arrived at the Forest of Death. Once they got there, Anko explained the rules of the second exam. Half of the genin that passed the first exam would get an Earth Scroll while the other half would get a Heaven Scroll. The teams would then be released into the Forest of Death, which was full of dangerous animals and plants that could kill a Chunin if not careful. His team had gotten an Earth Scroll and were a few minutes from entering the forest. The blonde Jubi turned to his teammates, "Be careful out there," he said as he handed a Harem kunai to each of them. If you two get into any danger, don't hesitate to summon me, Naruto said before the doors opened. He wasn't allowed to tell them about Orochimaru since it could compromise the plan to counter the invasion, and he couldn't risk Orochimaru learning about the plan. It'll be alright, Naru-kun. Both me and Sayuri-chan are at least high Chunin level. Narumi reassured him that they would be fine, but Naruto knew that a Chunin stood no chance against Orochimaru. Yeah, Naru-kun, everyone knows we are the best genin team in the village, Sayuri said with no small amount of pride in her voice as the doors opened. The team ran into the forest and took to the trees to quicken their pace. Don't get overconfident, Naruto said. After a few hours of traveling, they ran into a group of rain ninja who they quickly disposed of. Unfortunately, they had the wrong scroll and they had to continue to search for another team. By the end of the first day, they were about a third of the way to the tower but had no scroll. They could have made it to the tower by now if they didn't have to get the scroll. Out of the 3 teams they faced so far today, they all had Earth Scrolls. Naruto cursed his luck since there was a higher chance now that they would run into Orochimaru in the forest. Time skip, morning. Naruto woke up early with the sound of a scream. What the hell? Naruto thought as he went searching for the source of the scream. He tracked it down to a red-haired girl with glasses who was about to be mauled by a massive bear. Isn't that Karin from Sasuke Tem's group? Naruto asked himself before he acted. He jumped in front of the bear and held out his hand. Shinra Tensei, he exclaimed as the bear was blasted back. Naruto turned to the red-haired girl who scrabbled to get her glasses on. Once on, she got a clear look of Naruto and his chakra. It felt so warm to her yet wild like a lion. Just the feel of the chakra made her blush. He could see that her teammates had been killed by the bear if the blood on the claws and teeth gave anything away. Are you okay? Naruto asked as he took a knee next to her. Karin nodded slowly as she tried to control her blush. Why, yes, she said, but stumbled forward onto Naruto. Her blush intensified 100-fold as she felt his muscles under his shirt. I sprained my ankle, she said softly. Naruto realized that this was a drastically different Karin than in his world. She hadn't been corrupted by Orochimaru yet. I'll make sure you get to the tower safe, he said as he summoned 3 clones, a horse-sized jackal. The blonde Biju placed the red head on the canine. When you get to the tower, give them this, he said as he handed her a scroll. This scroll puts you under the protection of my clan, he said. Thank you, she said before the jackal started to move out with the clones around it. Shadow clone jutsu, Naruto said as he made several clones and sent them into the forest. Naruto motioned for his team to stop suddenly. Below them was a group of Iwa shinobi. Watch, Naruto said with a small smirk before he vanished in a blur. On the ground below them, the Iwa team was talking. We should go after the Namikaze group. The leader said. He and the rest of his team wore the typical Aiwa shinobi outfit. But Onoki-sama said that we were not to target Minato Namikaze's family for revenge. One of the other two said with a bit of fear in his voice since he had felt Naruto's ki in the first exam and he didn't want to feel that power again. Screw that old man. He may have forgiven that bastard Namikaze but the rest of Aiwa hasn't. He wasn't someone who lost a loved one to the bastard during the war. The last one said in an angry tone. Exactly. If we kill them then we'll be heroes in the village. We might even be given positions on the council or even replace that fossil with someone who isn't senile. The leader said with a cocky smirk as he thought about what he thought would happen if they killed the Namikazes. The other two now shared the same smirk. Such unhealthy ambition. A voice said from behind them. They turned to see Naruto Namikaze leaning against a tree. Well, look who's here. With your death we'll be legends. The leader said as he charged at the blonde who smirked. Know your place, mortal. Naruto said with a dark grin. Jinten missile punch. Naruto said before delivering a high-speed punch to the leader's chest. The punch was so powerful that it ripped through his clothing and turned the Aiwa shinobi's ribcage to dust. The shinobi went flying back from the force, only stopping when he collided with a large tree which nearly fell over from the force. Time to end this. Kaden demon lanterns, Naruto whispered. Several fire balls formed floating the air which then took the form of demonic heads. The demon heads then shot forward. The jutsu set everything the heads touched into an inferno. Several trees fell to the ground as the flames burned them down. In the trees, Narumi and Sayuri looked on in awe. They could hear the screams of pain from the Aiwa team echoing in the forest. Sayuri was the first to speak after the little performance. Do you think he would teach me that jutsu? Sayuri asked her best friend. Narumi was snapped out of her state of shock by her friend's question. I don't think so. That has to be at least AA-ranked jutsu. She answered her harem sister's question. Sayuri pouted at the Namikaze's answer. Don't be so said, Sa-chan, I'll teach it to you when I feel you can handle it. Naruto said from behind her. Sayuri turned to him and hugged him while chanting thank yous. Naruto was about to say something when he felt a familiar presence. Amaterasu. Naruto yelled while releasing a wave of black fire at a tree. A shadow jumped away from the tree before the black flames could touch the shinobi. Fufufu, it seems like one of the little genin has quite a potent attack. I had no idea there was another Mangekyo Sharingan user alive, a disembodied voice said. Naruto flared his ki causing the creepy chucking to stop. Well, it seems that you have quite a bit of bite, Naruto-kun. Naruto had to refrain himself from yelling out at Orochimaru to come out and face him. Orochimaru might have been an insane psychopath, but he wasn't considered a genius for nothing. If he called Orochimaru out by his name, that would tip the snake Sanin off that something was wrong. Come on out. Narumi yelled out as she drew her katana. The creepy laugh returned as a grass ninja came out from the side of a tree. You seem confident, Orochimaru said in a fake female voice. Narumi and Sayuri dropped to their knees when he flared his own ki. Both girls had visions of their own deaths at the hands of Orochimaru. They knew that this wasn't what could happen, but rather what would happen if they fought him. Orochimaru was genuinely surprised to see Naruto not only completely ignoring his ki but putting out an even larger amount himself that put even the snake Sanin on edge. It seems you're a cut above the re. Before he could finish, Naruto had already landed several punches on his front. Fast, he thought as he flew back but flipped in midair and landed on a tree branch. Thanks to Orochimaru being distracted by Naruto, the killer intent loosened enough so that Sayuri and Narumi could stand up. Naruto looked at his two lovers. Naru-chan, Sa-chan, you two have to run. I'll keep him busy, Naruto said as he released the first seal so that he was now at 4 tails of power, which was how much it looked to almost kill Orochimaru in his world. Naruto's appearance changed from remaining in his human form. He now had 4 white tails coming out of his tailbone. His whiskers darkened and elongated while his canines became longer and sharper. His eyes changed to that of the Tengen as he glared at the Sannin. Time to die, Naruto said before he shot forward at Orochimaru. Both girls were shocked at the change but listened to Naruto in the end since they knew that they would only get in his way. Orochimaru chucked, "So a little genin thinks he can take me on by himself," the snake summoner said to the blonde who glared back at him. On the outside he seemed confident but on the inside Orochimaru was slightly disturbed by the amount of power coming off of Naruto. "You're a genin too, right?" Naruto said with a slight smirk, "So you mustn't be that powerful." Naruto said as he tried to punch Orochimaru in the face but the snake Sannin sidestepped it and countered with a kick to Naruto's face. Naruto corrected himself as charged back at the snake summoner. The snake user let a dozen snakes fly out of his sleeves towards but much to his surprise Naruto blurred out of existence and appeared next to Orochimaru and delivered another attack to the side of his face. "Jinten Meteor Strong Leg," Naruto yelled out as he did a Jinten version of Rock Lee's Leaf Hurricane. The attack was too fast that Naruto's foot looked as if it was covered in flames of youth before it slammed into Orochimaru's face. The snake pedo, Sannin flew through several trees before stopping. Not wanting to be outdone by a kid, Orochimaru opened his mouth to allow a fully restored version of himself out as if, molting, his damage. The disguise was gone now and now before him stood Orochimaru in his real form. "It seems that you are not to be underestimated but it's too late now, Sanae Tajishu." Many hidden shadow snake hands. Several large snakes shot out of Orochimaru's arm and at Naruto. "Shinra Tensai," Naruto said let out a pulse of power which turned the snakes into a bloody pile of snake parts. Naruto held out his right hand which mechanically transformed into a complex metallic cannon-like weapon but with several barrels. "Die," Naruto said coldly as he released a large amount of chakra bullets at the snake Sannin who replaced himself with a mud clone but several trees weren't so lucky as they now sported several hundred holes. Naruto instantly felt a presence behind him. Another robotic arm ripped out through his clothing from his left shoulder and caught Orochimaru's sword before it could cut him in half. The blonde demon's other arm bent backwards at 160 degrees and opened up releasing several wires that went to wrap around Orochimaru. The snake Sannin managed to dodge the wires but had to leave his sword behind in the hands of Naruto. "Damn it! Futon great breakthrough," the Sannin said as he exhaled a large and powerful gust of wind towards the Jubi. Naruto used Jinten to move out of the way then charged up a Rasengan and ran at Orochimaru. The snake Sannin ran towards Naruto as well with the Kusanagi pointed forwards in a stabbing motion. The second before they clashed Naruto vanished without a trace. Orochimaru felt a strong pain in his back as Naruto pushed his demonic Rasengan into his spine. Not wanting to be impaired from spinal damage he regurgitated a fresh version of himself. Naruto growled at the Sannin who had once again escaped his death. "That's it. No more playing around," Naruto roared out as he made two shadow clones. The three Narutos started to form a Rasengan, only this one was bluish-white and had four long curved blades. Naruto raised his hand up high with the S rank just up into the air. "Futon Rasenshuriken," Naruto said before throwing the powerful attack. Orochimaru tried to dodge the attack but Naruto manipulated the attack into him. The Rasenshuriken hit Orochimaru and took him far into the air before it expanded. The expanded form of the jutsu was almost as big as the forest itself. All over the village, everyone looked at the white sphere in the sky in both awe and fear. Inside the attack Orochimaru felt each and every microscopic blade of wind cutting his chakra network and muscle cells. Once the attack ended, the snake Sannin's body fell from the sky and landed in front of Naruto unceremoniously. "This is the end Orochimaru," Naruto said as he drew a kunai. "Fufufu, you fool, all I was doing was distracting you," Orochimaru laughed weakly. "What?" Naruto shouted in shock. Orochimaru smirked weakly as he started to decompose at a rapid rate. "What you were fighting was a type of clone called a blood clone. An almost perfect replica of the original with equal amount of chakra and strength. By now both your little girlfriends have my curse marks. He laughed out before completely decomposing away. Naruto didn't even think about it as her eye shined to Sayuri's location. Naruto appeared next to the female Uchiha who was rolling in pain as she clutched the side of her neck. Shit! Naruto yelled as he ran towards the girl. Fuinjutsu Heavenly Sealing, Naruto said as he placed his palm over her curse seal. Removing it revealed that there was now a ring around it with 10 triangles pointing outward. Sayuri opened her eyes and looked at the Naruto. To her his image looked blurred but she knew it was him. Naru-kun, Narumi-chan is fighting that monster, she said before losing consciousness. Naruto created a shadow clone and her eye shined to the kunai he had given Narumi before they entered the Forest of Death. Naruto appeared a few meters from Narumi who was currently on her knees, Orochimaru nearing to cut her in two. No, Naruto thought as he shot forward pushing Narumi out of the way. Narumi looked up at Naruto. You okay Naru-chan? Naruto asked her. Narumi stared at him wide-eyed, she was lightly trembling now. NN na Naru-kun. She stuttered. Yeah, Naruto asked. You arm. She shouted out as she saw that her lover only had one arm now. Well people, what did you think? Leave your thoughts as the reviews. Also vote on the goddamn poll people, this is apparently a really big deal for people. And before all you people start saying that I made Naruto a idiot for making a mistake that allowed Orochimaru to have a shot at giving Sayuri the curse mark, let me put it this way. You are fighting something that is basically a perfect copy of Orochimaru. It's like when Naruto fought Neji. Neji even with the Byakugan couldn't tell the differences between the shadow clones. Blood clones are basically more powerful and sturdier versions of shadow clones. So please don't tell me that I make Naruto make a stupid mistake because there was no way of him knowing what Orochimaru had planned. Naruto looked at where his arm once was before he looked back at Narumi and smiled. It's just a scratch, no need to worry Naru-chan. Naruto said completely calm. Just a scratch. It's missing. She yelled at her male counterpart who was still smiling back at her without faltering in the slightest. It'll be fine Naru-chan. The blonde demon said to his lover as placed her down against the side of the tree they were on. Naruto's smile slowly faded as he turned to Orochimaru. Naru-chan. I need you to close your eyes for me. I am about to take a form which I do not wish for you to see. Naruto said with completely seriousness. But, Narumi tried to say something but was cut off by Naruto's growing presence. She could feel an ungodly amount of power starting to leak out. Naru-chan, I beg you to please close your eyes and keep them closed for a complete 10 seconds. Do not open them until that time is up. Naruto said as steam started to rise up from his body. Narumi could see the complete seriousness of the situation and closed her eyes. See that his lover's eyes were closed now. Naruto let his power loose. 1. Out of Naruto's tailbone, even more tails sprouted out, giving him a grand total of 8 tails. His skin rapidly started to pale into a pure white while his hair darkened from the roots out and turned pitch black. In this Orochimaru couldn't help but take a step back but was frozen in place by the sheer amount of power being leaked from the demon. The sky changed from a light blue to a bloody red and the sun black as night. All across the elemental nations, every living being, both animal and human, civilian and ninja, and everything from genin to cage felt as if an angry god had just awoken from its slumber and was passing his judgment on some poor fool who had angered it. 2. Naruto's transformation progressed even further as a pulse of power shredded his shirt and coat, leaving his upper body exposed. From the top of his head, 2 white horns started to grow outward from the spiky black hair. 1 his back 10 spike grew out, 5 on the top and 5 on the bottom, with the image of the Rinnegan over 9 Tomo arranged in 3 rows of 3. 3. Naruto watched as Orochimaru started to back away from his demonic before vanishing and reappearing in front of Orochimaru in a split second and slapped him through several trees. 4. Naruto appeared in front of the downed Orochimaru and proceeded to pick him up by the head and threw him against a large rock. However, before the snake Sannin could collide with the rock, he spat out a fully healed body. 5. Orochimaru started to sink into the ground, but Naruto was able to follow the traitor's movement with his dujutsu. The demon pointed a single finger at where the snake was hiding and formed a small black sphere out of pure chakra. 6. Naruto flicked his hand back and fired an attack at outrageous speeds towards the Sannin, who tried to get out of the attack's range, but the small ball followed his movements until it slammed into the ground above him. 7. Orochimaru shot out of the ground before the attack detonated on him and went for the trees. Naruto vanished from sight and appeared a mere meter in front of the snake summoner with his arm extended so the palm of his right hand was mere inches from the snake's face. 8. Positive and negative energy rapidly fused to form a spiraling murky dark purple orb. Orochimaru only had time to widen his eyes before the ball flew across the small gap between his face and the palm. 9. Orochimaru went flying back as the orb forced him through everything in his path until he was about 100 meters from where he originally was. 10. The purple sphere finally exploded, destroying Orochimaru's entire body and anything within about 30 meters, leaving a massive crater in the middle. Narumi opened her eyes after the count of 10. She had felt so much in those 10 seconds that she had her eyes closed. She had felt the wave of power that had spread across the elemental nations and was shaken by it. It felt like pure and absolute power was passing through her entire body. The power itself like one giant paradox. It was both wild but it was also focused. It was dark and malicious, but at the same time it felt like a warm embrace from a loved one. She looked up to see her lover standing in front of her. Naruto was once again in his normal form but was still missing his arm. "I'm sorry it took so long, Naru-chan, but I managed to finish off the annoying snake," the now blonde again demon said with a cheerful smile. "So he's dead?" the blonde girl asked the Jubi, who frowned at the question. "Yes, he's dead, but I don't know how long that will last. I have a feeling that I have only stalled him and he'll be back," Naruto said to his girlfriend. While he had said that it was only a feeling, Naruto knew that the snake Sannin would be back by the Chunin exam finals, just like he had been revived by Kabuto during the war using Anko's curse mark. As long as someone held Orochimaru's curse mark, there was always the chance that the snake would come back. Narumi's eyes widened. "Sayuri-chan. We have to help her," the blonde yelled as she rushed to her best friend's location. Naruto sighed and absorbed his arm before he followed after her until they found themselves at the same clearing where he, along with Sasuke and Sakura, had been ambushed by the Sound Team back in his world. The two arrived just in time to see Sayuri break Zaku's arms. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw the black flame-like markings on Sayuri's skin. "Impossible. How did the curse mark activate when I sealed it away with one of my seals?" Naruto thought in a panic until it dawned on him. He had been too late and the corrupted chakra had already entered Sayuri's own system and had been able to use the Uchiha's own chakra to erode the seal away. "Damn it. I swear that if I ever see that snake again, I'll take his soul and deliver it directly to the Shinigami," Naruto thought in rage as he grabbed Sayuri from behind. "Stop, Sa-chan, it's over," Naruto said as he pushed his chakra into Sayuri's system to wash away the dark chakra from the seal. The black-haired Kunoichi relaxed into his arm and fell unconscious. Naruto handed Sayuri to Narumi, who brought her back under a tree. "What happened to my clone?" Naruto asked as he looked around to the injured Team 10 and Team 9. "Our idiot of a teammate thought you were trying to kidnap her and attacked," Tenten said with a sigh. "Why did she have to be stuck with the most energetic genin in the village? He tried to fight your clone and got the shit beaten out of him, but he managed to land a blow before fainting and popped it." Naruto sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "This is such a pain in the," Naruto said to himself, but everyone was able to hear it. "How the hell did all of this go so wrong? I already knew what would happen, but Sayuri still got the curse mark and I lost my arm. I could grow it back now, but it would only lead to more questions from Narumi. I guess I'll have to leave it as it is for now and regrow it when Narumi leaves with Jiraiya to train," Naruto thought before he turned to the Sound Team. "Look now, we will be leaving now. Dosu as he placed the scroll on the ground, but Naruto wouldn't have it. The blonde charged in and pierced the sound shinobi through the chest with his single arm. Looking at Zaku, Naruto lit the other shinobi on fire with his dujutsu. The last of the sound team looked on in horror as she watched her teammates die right in front of her. Naruto turned to her, and then there was one. Naruto said in a low but dangerous tone as he slowly walked over to the kunoichi. Kin fell to her knees and started to cry. Please don't kill me, she begged the blonde demon who was now standing right in front of her. I never wanted to be part of that snake bastard's plan in the first place. He killed my family and everyone in my village before he took me to his hideouts to add me to his forces. She gabbled to the blonde who looked at her with a calculation expression. Naruto could see the truth in her words and made his choice. Very well, you shall be allowed to come with us under the condition that you let yourself be questioned and tell us everything you know about the snake. Naruto said coldly as he talked about the traitorous snake. Yes. I'll tell you everything I know, just get me away from that village, Kin cried to Naruto, who smiled lightly and picked her up bridal style and carried her next to Sayuri. Rest for now, Naruto said as he went to check on Team 10 and Rock Lee. Is she alright? Naruto asked as he arrived by Ino's side. She was unconscious and looked very tired, probably from using her family's jutsu so much. Yeah. She was controlling the body of that sound kunoichi when her teammates tried to kill her, even if she was killing their own teammate. Disgusting, Shikamaru said with hatred in his voice as he looked over at what remained of the sound team, not counting Kin. Here, this will help her, Naruto said as he took out a herb from one of his pockets. This herb speeds up cell reproduction and helps fix any and all internal injuries, Naruto said as he took a knee next to his blonde girlfriend. You'll be alright, Ino-chan, Naruto said as he placed a glowing green hand on her forehead to heal her tired mind. Removing his hand, the blonde leaned down and kissed her forehead. Come on, I'll take all of you to the tower, Naruto said as he gathered all his allies around him. Narumi carried Sayuri while Shikamaru carried Ino. The only ones who didn't join in were Team 9. We still don't have our scroll, Neji said as he and Tenten left with Rock Lee. Naruto sighed at Neji's attitude but focused on getting his team and Team 10 to the tower. He had managed to get a Hiraishin kunai there thanks to one of his clones who had arrived there a bit before. Hiraishin, Naruto muttered, and in an instant group of 7 were at the tower. Both teams opened their scrolls and tossed them forward so that they crossed each other. In 2 plumes of smoke, the senseis of both teams appeared before them. Kazumi Nichan, what are you doing here? Narumi asked her sensei, who looked at her and then at Sayuri. The silver-haired woman's eyes narrowed. What happened? She asked. We were attacked by Orochimaru in the forest. I managed to fight him away, but he left his curse seal on Sa-chan and was able to cut off my arm, Naruto said as he wiggled his stub. Kazumi's eyes widened at this. Are the 2 of you alright? She asked the blonde, who smiled back at her. The older kunoichi looked perplexed as she looked at Naruto's smile. She couldn't help but blush at the look on his face. She would be lying if she said that she hadn't developed feelings for the blonde, but after all she had experienced, she couldn't let herself be distracted by a crush. It's just a scratch, Naruto said calmly as he took Sayuri from Narumi's arms and walked away. Looking back at his lover, go get something to eat and some sleep. I'll go seal away this damn curse mark again, Naruto said as he took the Uchiha with him into a private room he had asked the Hokage for. The blonde placed Sayuri on the kind-sized bed and prepared several hand signs. Kishin Fujin, Naruto said as he placed his own version of the Shiki Fujin, except that this one didn't require a sacrifice but was considerably weaker. The area around the curse seal glowed a dark red, which replaced the 3 tomo on her neck with an image of his Shiki Fuin but a 10-pointed star in place of the swirl. That should completely suppress it this time. It is my most powerful Fuinjutsu right now, Naruto said to himself as he slumped into a nearby chair. Going 8 tails then using the Kishin Fujin had taken quite the toll on his body. Naruto relaxed his body before he fell asleep. Day of the preliminaries. A lot had happened since Naruto and his team had arrived at the tower in the middle of the Forest of Death. Naruto had a meeting with Hiruzen and Danzo to discuss the events of the forest. The two were less than pleased that the snake had managed to get his mark on Sayuri, and releasing it would release a living copy of Orochimaru. The last thing they needed was to insane pedophiles that hated them running around. They also didn't like that Naruto had lost an arm but accepted that he sacrificed it to save Narumi. Naruto had lied to them and told them that he would be able to regrow it in a few months. He could have done it there, but he didn't need to be asked any more questions. Narumi was already grilling him about the tails and power spiky. Naruto told them how he would ask the Shinigami to see if there was a way of removing the soul out of the seal so that he could extract the soul and then destroy the seal. He would have tried absorbing the seal, but the possibility of having the snake Sannin in his mind trying to take control of him like Kurama had done all those years ago wasn't number one of things to have. The three leaders of Konoha had also discussed what they were going to do about Kin and Karin. In the end, they had decided that Karin would be given asylum in the Namikaze clan compound, while Kin would be questioned but not harmed physically for any and all information she had on Orochimaru. Unfortunately, since she was a genin, so she didn't have much. Now here they were in the main room of the tower where all the battles would take place. More people had passed this time than in his world. This time Kabuto's team hadn't made it in time and were kicked from the exam. The teams that had passed were teams 7, 8, 9, and 10 from Konoha, Gaia's team, and 2 teams from the Cloud, which surprisingly enough was Killer Bee's genin team of Samui, Karui, and Omoi. The next was the team of who he recognized as an expert medic from Kumo, Yugito the Nibi Jinchuriki, and another unimportant genin who Naruto hadn't met before. What had surprised Naruto was not only that Yugito was actually younger in this world while everyone else was normally older than in his world, but that she was still a genin and looked about 20. All the teams lined next to each other as they looked up at the gather crowd of all the Jonin sensei and a few others standing next to the Hokage who was smoking his pipe. Congratulations all of you. You have all earned the right to stand here today by proving that you could best Konoha's own forest of ever. Do any of you know why we have the Chunin exams in different villages?